Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another video. The patch notes for 4.4, which is going to introduce M21, were released today, along with the visual spoiler of the cards that will be introduced into Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest in M21. So I'm going to be breaking all this down into a few separate videos. So this video is going to be my coverage of the patch notes. There's going to be another video that's going to be a more in-depth analysis on like what's my first take on the new planeswalkers, and then there's going to be the videos that I usually make on what are going to be the chase cards in the common, uncommon, and rare range, and what are going to be the chase cards in the mythic and masterpiece range. Now, there are just so many good cards in the set that I might even have like mythic, masterpiece, rare, and common, uncommon. I might even break it into 3 videos because there's just so much to talk about with this set. So let's go straight into the patch notes. There's a lot of really good information here. And as usual, well, actually not as usual, I've never really done this, but I'm at almost 950 subscribers. That means I'm 50 away from 1,000, which means that YouTube would monetize me. So if you're not already subscribed to my channel and you watch my videos, I would very much appreciate it if you guys would subscribe to my channel. Just help me get to that 1,000. That would be awesome. Thank you. Okay, so patch 4.4, we are going to get the new set, Core 21. We're going to be getting 244 new cards and 5 new planeswalkers. I was kind of hoping we would get to see colorless Ugin and a new Ugin, but no dice. Now, if you do not want spoilers for like what are the new planeswalkers, tune out of this now because I'm going to start going into them. So the first one is Basri Ket. It's a brand new white planeswalker to the Magic universe. Basri Ket is going to have the same mana gains as all the other planeswalkers in this set, or at least the same spread. So they're all going to be the +4, +4, +3, -1, -1. Basri Ket is, I'm going to go over them all more in depth, but the first ability is going to make it so that target creature you control gets 4/4 in Bravery. Then, if that creature's base power is 3 or less, it gains Flying, Lifelink, and prevent damage at end of turn, or until end of turn. Remember, this is just at level 60. The second ability, Remembrance of Solidarity. If you control 2 or less creatures, create X soldier tokens, where X is the number of non-token creatures and non-token creature reinforcements you control. Otherwise, populate X times, then you gain X life. In case you're wondering, what's Bravery? What's populate? Bravery lets you take a creature, and regardless of what slot it's in, move it down in the combat phase to the first slot. So that's going to bypass, I think, Reach and Defender and Vigilance and stuff, in case you have something that you definitely want to be hitting your opponent's critters. Or let's say that in case you have something like Quartzwood Crasher and the token's in front of it, you want Quartzwood Crasher in front of the token. So it lets you rearrange your creatures, which is pretty cool. Populate is going to make it so that when you activate Populate, it's going to make a copy of your tokens. Oketra's Everlasting Army is going to create an Oketra's Everlasting Army token, and then target creature you control permanently is going to gain Bravery and Vigilance. The Oketra's Everlasting token is going to say at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 2 or less creatures, create 3 soldier tokens. Otherwise, populate 3 times. And when your first creature attacks, your other creatures get +X until end of turn, where X is equal to the number of your first creature's reinforcements. The second one is going to be a new Chandra. So new Chandra is going to have her 3 abilities. They're all going to be a lot more straightforward. So the first one is deal 5 damage to any opposing target. Then your first creature gets +5/0 until end of turn. The second one is going to create a Spellburn token, which is going to have prowess. So whenever you cast a non-creature card, deal 2 damage to your opponent's planeswalker. And when your opponent casts a spell, deal 4 damage to your opponent's planeswalker. So just a bunch of stuff to burn them. And also discard all cards without mana from your hand and draw 3 cards. The third ability, fetch up to the first 6 different spell cards from your library, then destroy 15 non-red gems. The third new one is going to be a new Garruk. So new Garruk is going to have Unleashed Instincts. So target creature you control gets +6/+6 and trample until end of turn. Then that creature's base power is 5 or greater. You also draw 2 cards. Hunting Pack, the second ability, makes it so that your first non-token creature gains Leader Beast. So whenever you play a Beast token, exile that token and reinforce that leader. And then also create 3 Beast tokens. If your opponent controls more creatures and creature reinforcements than you gain 6 loyalty. So basically, you give a creature leader and then you reinforce it 3 times. Then we've got Predator's Trial. Create a Predator's Trial token, then fetch the first 2 non-creature cards from your library. The Predator's Trial token is going to make it so that your first creature has Berserker and Trample, and it's also going to make it so that at the end of your turn you pick one of the first 4 different cards from your library and put that directly into play under your control. It'll also have Morbid, then your creatures get +1/+1. Morbid is if a creature died this turn, activate Morbid. We've then got Liliana, Walker of the Dead. Liliana is going to be our 42nd Liliana, I think, right? Or actually the 6th. I don't know, too many Lilianas. So this one is going to have first ability, Vess's Contempt. Each player discards the last card without mana from their hand. If your opponent can't, they lose 6 life and you gain 6 life. The second ability, Undying Torment. Target opposing creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. X is the number of cards in your graveyard. If that creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control and give it permanently the zombie subtype. And finally, the third ability, Walker of the Dead. Create a Walker of the Dead token. Then you may destroy target creature you control. If you do, draw 2 cards and gain 9 life. The token that you create, the Walker of the Dead token, is going to say at the beginning of combat on your turn, pick one of the first 3 different creatures from your graveyard and move that directly into play under your control and give it the zombie subtype. It also is going to have Morbid, so once again, if a creature has died this turn, then your zombie creatures get +1/+1. The 5th and final Planeswalker is our blue one. It's going to be a new Teferi. And new Teferi is going to have the first ability, Winds of Fate. Discard the last card without mana from your hand and draw 3 cards. Then create a Winds of Fate token that has Prowess. So when you cast a non-creature spell, or basically you cast a support or a spell, your first creature gets +1/+1 and flying until end of turn. It will also have Anticipation, drain 2 mana from the first card in your opponent's hand. So when you play a card during your opponent's turn, Anticipation becomes activated. The second ability, Timeless Image, is going to disable target creature until the beginning of your next turn. If it's an opposing creature, create a copy of it on the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, reinforce it. So if it's your own creature that you disable, you reinforce it. If it's your opponent's, you disable it and you get a copy of it. And that copy is going to, I think, count as a token, but I'm not sure. I'll need to test. And then Master of Time, create a Master of Time token and draw 3 cards. The Master of Time token says that when you make your first match during your turn, you gain 2 extra swaps. Yeah. And then Resourceful 2, so after the first card, your second and third card drawn in any given turn will make it so that the first non-creature card in your hand gains 2 mana. Now, as for the new mechanics, I briefly covered them with the Planeswalkers, but let's go over them anyways. So Bravery is going to be this here banner symbol, and Bravery is a keyword that lets players reposition their own creatures. The tooltip actually reads, at the beginning of combat on your turn, this creature is positioned as the first creature on the battlefield for you until end of turn. If there are 2 or more creatures with Bravery on the battlefield, they are repositioned according to their current positions. So it has priority over Defender, Reach, and Vigilance. So if, let's say you have one creature with Bravery and then another creature with Bravery, they will always stay in that same 1-2 order. You can't rearrange them, sadly. But, I don't know how tricky that was to make. Renewal is a new keyword that activates depending on the amount of life a player gained during the turn. Morbid is a new keyword that activates depending on the amount of reinforcements or creatures lost during a turn. Prowess is a new keyword that activates abilities when a non-creature card is cast. Populate is a new mechanic that allows reinforcing the first creature token that a player controls. And the Populate is going to read, reinforce the first creature token you control with the greatest base power. Now, there are going to be a few card changes to the game. Grafdigger's cage is getting changed so that it does not create a loop with Underworld Cerberus. I don't see that being like a super massive change apart from it's taking an infinite loop out of the game. So my sense, just from discussions with Octagon and just like some card balancing talks, is that they don't like infinite loops, and that was causing an infinite loop. The Masterpiece Hypnox got changed. This one was a little bit of a surprise for me. I'm not really sure why this one happened. It used to be that when Hypnox entered the battlefield, you would exile all cards from your opponent's hand, but now you have to actually cast Hypnox in order to exile all cards from your opponent's hand. The mythic creature from Theros Beyond Death, Taranika, a Crowan veteran, has changed to make it so that the first creature that it buffs doesn't become a 4/4. It now will have a base power toughness of 4/4, which means that if you put it on a token, for example, or you have a token gain that boost, it can become very, very large, which is a very nice buff to that card. Stolen Identity, the blue reward for Ravnica at War, I believe, the blue rare card. It has had its description changed. It was originally you copy a non-token creature and then that creature gains the ability. Now you copy a non-token creature and the copy gains the ability. So you've got to play the copy in order to get the additional stolen identities. Treacherous Blessing has changed. This is obviously because I made a video on it and showed that it is such an incredibly powerful card. So Treacherous Blessing originally read that you draw 4 cards, and then each of those cards gain half their mana, and then whenever you play a card, you lose 10 life. And then while this is on the board, if you would exile a card from your hand, if it has 8 or more mana, discard it instead, then the support loses 1 shield. Now it will be if you discard, or if you exile something with 5 or more mana, you're going to discard it instead, and the support is going to lose 2 shields instead of 1. So that's a really nice change that's going to make it so that you can get rid of the Treacherous Blessing a little bit more quickly, and ideally you can use it more of as a draw engine. We'll see. The card Stomp got changed. So this was on the flip side of, it was an adventure card, a flip side of some ugly giant thing. And so it's changing from each creature in Planeswalker loses prevent damage and then deal 4 damage to deal 4 damage to any opposing target. And then when you cast this, each creature in Planeswalker loses prevent damage until end of turn. So there are a few other little changes. Mythic creature Errata from Theros Beyond Death is having its mana changed from 14 to 12. It's the spider thing, and it's now going to create 3 spiders instead of 2. All dog subtypes are going to become, or all hound subtypes are going to become dogs. So all creatures that were originally hounds are now going to become dogs. Taco Destroyer is one of those as an example. So if you have a creature, if you go ahead and look into your search filter for hound, all of those hounds are now going to count as dogs. So that was an errata in the paper game, and they decided to follow suit, especially as we're getting tribal cats and dogs in M21. Planeswalker supports are now going to have the emblem subtype in addition to their other support subtypes. Event supports have gained an event rule subtype in addition to their support subtypes. I'm guessing that this is just so you can differentiate them a little bit better when you're reading them on the battlefield. The Destroyer objective has changed the description from kill to destroy. I feel like this is kind of nice because there were a lot of people who didn't know that exile did not count as destroy. Destroy meant like destroy effects, or like you bounce it to the opponent's hand and it gets destroyed that way, or you bounce something that there isn't room for, and so as a result instead gets destroyed. So it just keeps that destroy word more active. They've revised all events that have the objective, and all of those events are this comprehensive list right here. There are a lot of them. So now they're just going to read, Destroyer is going to have destroy however many or more creatures during a single fight based on whatever that destroyer is now. So it's just going to be a little bit clearer in what it's supposed to be. And then players can target their own creatures in order to fulfill the objective for Destroyer, which is important to note because that's going to stay the same. Now, there's also going to be a new one. So the Sacrifice and Protector objectives, they've got their descriptions changed. So Sacrifice is going to be lose X or more creatures during a single fight. or it was lose, to now have X or more creatures you control destroyed or exiled during a fight. That's really nice. It just clarifies it. It means you can have them destroyed or exiled, and so that makes it a little bit like clearer, I think for the players. Protector is going to go from the lose X or less creatures during a single fight to have X or fewer creatures destroyed or exiled during the fight. I mean, this is sort of a bummer just because it means that lose, I think, actually originally only counted for destroy, but now it also counts for exile. But nonetheless, it's good to have that clarity for that objective and that that's exactly what they mean for that objective. Okay. The research objective has also changed. So the objective was originally counting the initial 2 cards for its progress. So now the initial 2 cards are ignored in the objective's progress. All other cards, including the one drawn at the beginning of the first turn, will continue to be counted. So we're seeing Sacrifice and Protector changed a little bit. We're seeing Research changed. And then this brings us to another card, Sisei, Weatherlight Captain. So this one is a masterpiece, and so it has the enter the battlefield effect is now stackable, which is nice. Before you just got it once, so that's pretty nice. And then the following 2-node PvP coalition events have had an adjustment in their individual rank rewards. So that's going to be Titanomachy and Hunter Bonder. That's just going to be for the 101 to 250. It's really just sort of a small change. So you'll also see that individual progression is going to change. So position 5 means 1 through 5. Position 25 is 6 through 25, and so on and so forth. I'm glad to see that the individual rewards have changed and been increased. However, I'm a little bit sad to see that they've increased by so little. Going from 5 jewels to 10 jewels in platinum for top 5 placement still is not going to make me play those events. So I sometimes will actually play Titanomachy and Hunter Bonder because they have 2 nodes, and I actually like playing the objectives, so it's sort of something that I'd be playing in the training grounds anyway, so I might as well help my coalition. But things like Ravnica at War, which is also having its rewards changed, including the coalition rewards, as we're going to get to shortly, is not going to make me do it like at all, right? So here's Ravnica at War. So for the coalitions, you're going to see a very small boost to crystals in bronze, silver, gold, platinum, but basically they're the same always, right? It's coalition rewards. But the coalition crystals, not the jewels, have been changed, and it's only by a little bit. So I still don't ever see myself playing Ravnica at War again, unless that gets changed, which is too bad. I was really hoping to see a swap, but maybe we'll see one soon. I don't know. Okay, creatures with Defender, Reach, and Vigilance used to always be in the first position, even if they lost their evergreens temporarily. Now they will lose their position, and then they will return to their position when they regain the evergreen. So that means that, let's say that the second creature that you have cast has Defender. When you cast it, it moves from the second position on the battlefield to the first position on the battlefield. Then if there was something that made it lose that evergreen, it would then go back to the second position, and if it regained that evergreen, it would go back into the first position. So that's really all that means. The Afflict evergreen has now gained an icon. It's this cool looking sword thing. I think that's nice. Maybe we'll get more Afflict. I mentioned in a video earlier this past week that I like the Afflict. I think it was when I was going over the planeswalkers and Samut. So if we're going to see more things with Afflict, I kind of like that. Bug fixes. This is like an entire scroll of parchment. Like, look at this. Look at how many bug fixes there are. And they are all very important fixes. I know that typically when a new set comes out, we get a whole world of new bugs, but I'm very hopeful that we won't get like a super horde of new bugs, and that these bug fixes are just going to make the game super stable, because they get rid of really all the things that I know were like making me like, really? But so this is fantastic. So let's go over some of them. They fixed the permanent support bug where mana was going to your opponent instead of to you, which is huge. They fixed an issue with the Eldrazi Scion tokens where they weren't giving mana when they were destroyed. This is especially useful for the Zendikar versus Eldrazi event. They fixed an issue on the Avacyn's Madness node where if you had, say, like Shadow Spear out that made it so that your first creature had lifelink, and then you summoned another copy of that creature, that it would count against the objective. Now it will only be if you actually play something that has the evergreen lifelink from your hand. They fixed an issue in Titanomachy where the Fate of Nyx was destroying cards after removing its buffs, which is nice. They fixed an issue where the opponent would not draw cards again after the Overwhelm the Gods Major Bolas's Omnipotence token was destroyed. That was terrifying. If you found a way to destroy that token and you still couldn't draw cards for the rest of the game, that's just game over. That's terrible. Fixed an issue where transform cards were entering the player's hand with the flip backside up. So that's going to, hopefully, I don't know, maybe get rid of the crashes that we've been seeing with Startled Awake and some other transform cards. Fixed an issue where the game would freeze whenever trying to replace or destroy token stacks. I'm really hopeful that this will also fix the issue where if you try to replace a token, you have to just like sacrifice an extra creature. So if that replaces both of those, that would be super sweet. I don't know if it is, but that would be nice. They fixed an issue where creatures destroyed by Gideon's Triumph were not counting toward the objective, kill X or more creatures. Gideon's Triumph is a support, it's an uncommon, that states when a creature attacks, destroy that creature. So that's going to now count for that. That's really nice. They've once again supposedly fixed Hixis to make it so that things get re-enabled and don't just stay perma-disabled, which is good. Fixed an issue where Dust would destroy all Vanguard supports. Dust is not supposed to destroy all Vanguard supports. Fixed an issue where tokens were being counted as destroyed instead of going out of the game in a few cases. As you're going to see a little bit further down, that includes with Labyrinth of Scophos all the way down here. Now when they get exiled, they're just gone. They don't come back. Fixed an issue where Kiora the Crashing Wave was converting gems to both the players' and opponents' colors. That's going to be the Kiora Vanguard. The Mythic Kiora Vanguard. Fixed an issue where Zixara was not giving the correct amount of power toughness to the ever-growing Hydra token after casting more than 2 cards with stored mana. That's fantastic. I actually recorded a video on that card 3 times and then just decided not to post it because it was bugged and my tokens were losing power toughness for casting big things with X in their mana cost. I'm sorry for some of the noise in the background. My boys just woke up from a nap. Fixed an issue where Stomp would still cast, even after pressing Not Now on the prompt. Can you imagine? You press Not Now and it still casts. Oh man, bummer. Fixed an issue where Sisay Weatherlight Captain was not counting Vanguard's colors to give mana. It now will. So a lot of Sisay Weatherlight Captain fixes. Maybe that'll make the card a little bit better. Fixed an issue with Kalemni's Avatar of Erois token, which was still buffing things after it was destroyed. Fixed a soft lock with the Grafdigger Cage Underworld Cerberus. Fixed an issue where Stonecoil Serpent was not correctly being buffed on entering the battlefield. Fixed some issues with the Spite and Martyrdom, where the Veteran objective was counting spells and support instead of only creatures. And then fixed an issue where the Enraged objective was only counting damage dealt by other creatures. So this means that objective is going to get a heck of a lot easier to complete. That's a good thing. Fixed an issue where Emergent Ultimatum was giving full mana instead of mana cost for cards with Jumpstart in the graveyard. Okay. Fixed an issue where Jaya Ballard's support effect was not being triggered when casting cards with Escape. That's really nice. I know that they want to fix up Escape, so hopefully with the Escape fix-up, that might make them a little bit more worth using, especially with Jaya. Fixed an issue where Drowned Secrets was not triggering when reinforced. Fixed an issue where Calamax was only getting buffed once instead of whenever the player copied a spell. That's a really cool change. I know it's not like a massive change because you're not going to be copying that many, but you're still copying enough that it'll be a very welcome change to make Calamax a little bit stronger. Already crazy strong, but yeah. Fixed an issue where Moo, the support token that you got for using the third ability, was triggering when your opponent matched 4 or more gems. Already went over Labyrinth of Scophos. Marauder Raptor is now going to be properly reducing mana cost. Ruinous Ultimatum is now going to be able to be cast when there's only a Vanguard on the opponent's side of the field. Dispersal was originally only being triggered, or was only triggering the second part of the ability when the opponent had a full hand. Fixed an issue with Chandra's Regulator. It's now going to properly give you your loyalty. Fixed an issue with Fathom Mage. It would keep happening even after the player's turn was over. Fixed an issue with Gideon Blackblade's active abilities, where the active abilities were only being possible to use once the passive ability could be triggered. Fixed an issue where War Chief Giant's effects were being triggered even after the creature was destroyed. Fixed an issue where creatures, when dying with the Shadow Spear buff, continued to keep that buff even after they were died and were returned to the battlefield. Fixed an issue where Oketra's name was only being casted when there were zombies on the battlefield. Fixed an issue with Drakehaven to make it so that tokens are appearing correctly. Fixed an issue with Bounty of Might so that it is cast without any creatures on, or so that it cannot be cast without any creatures on the battlefield. Fixed an issue where Dread Horde Butcher would not trigger the damage to any target effect after being destroyed when in the opponent's hand. Fixed an issue where Insidious Will was being destroyed even if the opponent didn't cast a card. Fixed an issue where Charming Prince was not returning itself to the player's hand when there were no other creatures on the battlefield. Fixed an issue where Chance of Glory's effect was remaining after the end of turn and stated on the card's description. And finally fixed an issue with the Eldritch Moon booster pack where the category banner and the booster image were not appearing properly. Whew, that was a lot of fixes. I know I sort of like Gatling gun through them, but those are a lot of really big fixes. I'm really excited to see those take place in the game. We have a new PvP event. It's a coalition event. It looks like it's going to be like a clone of the Titan Amaki and Hunter Bonder events. So probably the same reward structure. It's going to have 2 nodes, same amount of time, 2 charges, max charge is 6, 46-hour duration. And then there's the card gallery, which is going to be a separate video. So let me know what you guys are most excited about with M21. Let me know if this fixes all of the bugs that you were hoping to see fixed with the upcoming release. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, there's going to be a Planeswalker video and there's going to be my chase card videos coming up. So see you in the next one.